If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done. If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Friday. It means we're brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Got Jordan Kitchens and Taylor Sharp back there on the ones and twos, working towards the weekend. I hope the work week is in the rearview mirror. If it's not, we'll get you to the finish line here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Preston Guy in 15 minutes talking LSU spring football. Zachary Sim covers Texas for orangebloods.com. He's going to be with us 30 minutes from right now. Talk about a huge weekend between LSU and Texas over at Dish Falk Field in Austin. It's March Madness. We'll talk a little bit about that. Saints odds to win the NFC South and what that honestly means about the approach of the organization. We'll do some of that. It's a big weekend in SEC baseball. So loads and loads to do. We appreciate you being with us. Lock us in for the next 2 hours. We'll start this thing the way we start every single show with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
We're gonna start with LSU and Texas from Dish Falk because this is a big weekend for LSU. LSU got off to a great start last weekend and got a sweep of Missouri. That was what you needed to get done right out of the chute. And now it starts to get really real because I still believe that Missouri is the worst team in the league. I could be proven wrong, but feel pretty good about that. Texas is not the worst team in the league. The Longhorns are in year one under Jim Schlossnagle, but they played really well last weekend and swept Mississippi State. They had won 17 games in a row prior to Tuesday when they lost an extra inning game. And their fan base is going to be rocking and rolling at Dish Falk for this one. You've got a national power coming in if you're Texas. These are two of the biggest brands in the sport's history. Texas' basketball team is done, so nothing to lock in on this week there. And they've got a baseball team that's 3-0 in a new league. So this is going to be a really hostile environment for LSU the first time all year. You're talking about an LSU team that did go to Dallas and Frisco, but played in front of home crowds over there. LSU baseball flooded Frisco and kind of took over that stadium on Friday and Saturday before kind of a sleepy crowd on Sunday. So you're going to be facing the toughest competition you've seen all year in the toughest environment you've seen all year. It's time to learn something about this LSU team. And I want to focus to start kind of on Texas and what they are offensively. We'll talk about their pitching in hour number 2, and I certainly want to get to that with Zachary Sim because there are a couple of relievers that I don't have a real status on for this weekend, and I want to get his thoughts before I dive too deep into that pitching. But I do have a good feel for Texas offensively, and I want to talk about that as we match them up with LSU's pitching. And if you don't remember anything I say about a Texas offense the rest of the segment, this is something to keep in mind. Texas is the most patient offense in the Southeastern Conference. It is not necessarily shown up in their walk numbers. They don't have substantial walk numbers. I've got them right here. Let's look. Yeah, they're next to last in the SEC in walks. They've only drawn 98. By comparison, LSU has drawn 140. So it's not the walks. It's the patient approach, and that is something Jim Schlossnagle preaches. And here's how they do it. They swing at the first pitch less frequently than anyone in the Southeastern Conference. They will get up there and take a pitch or two. They're okay hitting from behind in the count. They're going to work counts, and by that nature, work pitchers and get into teams' bullpens. College bullpens are not good. That's a general rule. There are some teams that have strong bullpens, the elites in the country, but most teams don't have 6 really good pitchers. And 2 of them are definitely going to be the first 2 guys in the rotation. Texas is banking on, Jim Schlossnagle is banking on working a starting pitcher's pitch count up and getting into the bullpen. That's what they want to do. LSU has struggled with command the last 4 weeks, really. It was awesome the first weekend, but it got sideways on them the last month, really. And that's been the most concerning thing. And it bit them a little bit against Missouri last week when they were walking a few too many guys. When you look at the walk numbers as far as the SEC is concerned with LSU, they're too many. They're 13th in a 16-team league. So Texas is going to force LSU to throw the ball over the plate. And LSU is going to have to do that. That is key number 1 for LSU this weekend, is to throw the ball over the plate. Because if you don't, you will be behind 1-0. You'll be behind 2-0. You'll get these guys into hitters' counts. And you're going to have an opportunity here where they're going to be swinging away and getting into your bullpen. That you cannot have if you're LSU. LSU's bullpen is pretty deep. I like LSU's bullpen, especially with the first 4 guys, with Binge and with obviously what you've seen from Case and Evans. And I like, obviously, Zach Calvin. They've got some guys, but you don't want to tax that early and often. So you got to throw strikes. Texas is going to take pitches. Now, then beyond that, statistically, Texas' lineup has not been overwhelming. Their batting average is 10th in the SEC. Their on base is 13th. Their scoring is 14th. Their walks are 15th. Their strikeouts per game are up there, 4th most. That's a good matchup for LSU, who strikes out more batters than anybody in the Southeastern Conference. And Texas doesn't hit a lot of home runs. They're 10th in the SEC in home run hitting. So all of those metrics are in double digits in a 16-team league. 10th in batting, 13th on base, 14th runs, 15th walks, 10th home runs. But it starts with throwing the ball over the plate. And if LSU can do that, they'll strike Texas out a little bit, and they should be able to pitch in a big Dish Falk field that plays big. It's a pitcher-friendly ballpark, and they should be okay. There's not much star power in this Texas lineup right now. There's not an Ivan Melendez, the one of the great nicknames in all of sports history, specifically college baseball history, the Hispanic Titanic. Ivan Melendez, not one in there. They don't have one of those. Rylan Galvin has 7 home runs. He's got 3 in his last 4 games. Ethan Mendoza's hitting .406. There are good hitters, but it's not an overwhelming lineup. So for LSU, you got to pitch to contact and trust your defense. There is no reason for LSU to nibble and to not throw strikes, because you've got 2 incredible security nets for your pitchers to throw strikes. One, your defense is great. It's great. You've got as good an up-the-middle defense in the middle of the infield as you could possibly have. You've got a great center fielder most of the games in Stanfield. Curiel's a plus defender in left field. You haven't had really any issues over at third base outside of Tanner Reeves kicking 2 balls early. You've got a good defense. And your offense scores a lot. So it's not like you have to be terrified to give up a 2-run homer if you're LSU's pitching staff. Sure, you don't want to give up a 2-run homer, but LSU's going to score some runs. LSU's among the most potent offenses in the conference. They lead the SEC in batting average. They're second in the SEC in on-base percentage. They're putting up a ton of runs. What are you scared of if you're LSU's pitching staff? And I don't know if LSU's walk issues or control issues are a function of lack of command or approach, but if there's any of it that's approach-based, scrap that. Let your defense work and let your offense go score runs. Don't just give the opposition some help. And Texas will feast on that in their home ballpark if you give them a little bit of help. The most important pitch that LSU will throw all weekend long is strike 1. And you can work from there. You've got a pitching staff that leads the conference in strikeouts. The stuff is there. It's not an issue of not having stuff. But you've got to get some depth. Texas feasts on bullpens. And last week, you know this, You got 3 2/3 from Ianson and 3 2/3 from Shores. That dog will not hunt. It hunts Missouri. As I said on Monday, I wrote in my LouisianaSports.net column recapping the weekend. I said, LSU did not pitch at a championship level over the weekend. LSU pitched at a sweet Missouri level over the weekend, which was good enough last weekend. But sweet Missouri level pitching in Austin, you're probably going to lose 2 out of 3. And that's not the goal. You got to try to go over there and win a series. So from this perspective, like, this is, I think, a huge key in this weekend is LSU's ability to throw the ball over the plate. I mean, just look back at the one loss LSU has on the entire season. You played Omaha. Some of you may not even remember how they lost that game. I think what stands out is that they had 17 pop-ups and couldn't score runs. Like, that's the biggest deal. They stormed back and scored 4 in the 9th in that game. But how did Omaha build a lead? Well, you went to the bullpen, and you hit the first 2 guys you saw, and then they had a 3-run homer later in the inning. That's how you lost. It was one swing, but it was exacerbated because you hit 2 guys. Don't do it. If LSU makes this Texas team that is 10th in the SEC in hitting and 13th in on-base percentage, if you make them earn everything they get in a pitcher-friendly ballpark with the way that you defend and with the way you strike batters out, they're not going to go nuts offensively. But they can if you issue 7 free bases in one game. And that's been the issue for LSU. So I'm going to talk a lot about this series over the next 2 hours. We're going to get into it with Texas Ryder in 25 minutes. And then I'm going to break down LSU's offense in the second hour against LSU Texas pitching staff, which has done a pretty good job this year with limited talent based on what Jim Schloss thinks will eventually get there. But the biggest key to this entire weekend, based on LSU's issues and Texas's offensive approach, get ahead in counts. Texas will not beat LSU consistently living in 0-1, 0-2, 1-2 counts. That is the statistic that's boiled down to. So that's how we will start this thing with our Genesis opening drive. Our Friday show is brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. It's a Lenten Friday. If you're looking for a po' boy, looking for a catfish platter, shrimp platter, they got you covered over at Cork's. They're on Government between Foster and Jefferson. Go by, see them, see Paul and Michael, the owners. Tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you over there. It's fantastic food. You can get in and out via the drive-thru. You can sit in their newly remodeled seating area inside as well. And if you're feeding a whole crew, whether you got a family reunion, whether you're tailgating out the box sometime next week, whether you're feeding the office, whatever the case may be, birthday party, they can help you over there at Cork's. Got great catering orders as well. Big jumbo Gulf shrimp, crispy fried catfish, shoestring fries. It is all to die for over there at Cork's. Check out the menu, corksfishandshrimp.com. We come back, we'll shift focus over to LSU spring football. Preston Guy, TigerBait.com will be with us. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. I tell you about genesisofbatonrouge.com every day. It's a great resource because every car that they've got on the lot is online. So you can start your process from the comfort of your own desk, your own home at genesisofbatonrouge.com. Browse that inventory. You can check out all the features, all the models they have, the pricing, all of that, and that can kind of ease you in. But I highly, highly suggest you go stop by the dealership. I know that a lot of folks have had bad experiences on dealership lots. Their stereotypes exist for a reason. You can get a pushy salesperson. You can feel like you're being taken advantage of. Those are common feelings when you go onto an auto dealership lot. You're never going to feel that at Genesis. They're on Airline at Pico. You go by. It's a wonderful state-of-the-art building, and their line of vehicles is fantastic. Their brand ambassadors on staff are exceptional as well. They'll help you through the process. You'll feel like a guest, not a customer. Get behind the wheel of a Genesis and feel that difference. I'm telling you that most of you have not driven a Genesis. That's just the case because it hasn't been around all that long. Certainly not been Baton Rouge all that long. Put it on your list. Go by and see them. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can find that entire inventory online at genesisofbatonrouge.com.
Palmer, lover of LSU, Shreveport, and mayonnaise on hot dogs. The Hunt Palmer Show.
Friday show is brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Watching some March Madness here in the studio. Got Memphis and Colorado State going at it. And there's a game, Baylor and Mississippi State, that are coming down to the wire. I don't know what I can't read the scores. Is it 69-67? Is that right there? It's like Baylor may have a 2-point lead, but my eyes are not good. That is right. Okay, so Baylor got a 2-point lead under 2 minutes to go there. So we'll see if Coach Jans and company can get it done against Baylor. Let's talk some LSU football. Preston Guy, TigerBait.com, is with us every Friday. Joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Preston, how are you?
Hey, Hunt, how's it going?
Going quite nicely. Appreciate a little bit of time here on this Friday. Let's talk a little bit of LSU football. Offensive line, thoughts on where you see guys working, freshmen that could be potential breakout players. What have you seen for a week and a half of spring ball?
Yeah, I mean, early on, fans are not excited about the unit they're rolling out there in the ones, but as you and I have seen, they are rotating. I mean, a lot of guys out there, man. I severely doubt the unit of all returning players that we're seeing out there will even be the unit we see for the
ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
the spring open practice, I guess is what we're going to call it now. Boy, I hope they take Coach Prime's lead and do a cross practice with another team soon, because that's going to be way more entertaining if they line that up. But that being said, they're rotating a ton of guys in and out of there. Solomon Thomas and Carius Kern are two guys who, as true freshmen, stand out as physically intimidating, and they look the part of true freshmen that were ready to plug and play. That being said, they have a lot of players, and it's going to be – I think a lot of these position battles are going to be tightly contested between guys like Bo Bordelon and Solomon Thomas. You know, which one of them? I mean, talking about a guy who's been there 3 years versus a guy who just got there, but one seems to have more upside. There's just a lot of battles like that. And then, you know, Braylon Moore at the center position. Maybe he's not quite as big as some of the other guys, but he certainly seems to be the more polished true center out there. I'd be surprised if he doesn't work his way into a starting spot. So I think they have the guys ready for offensive line. They just really need to work on who are the right ones for the right spots and work on chemistry with one another.
Do you believe the running game is going to look different next year in terms of what they're trying to accomplish?
Well, hopefully by different, it's effective this year. I mean, you couldn't get all that much worse than last year. I think a big part of it is the running back room is going to be improved. You're going to have less injuries. You know, you're not going to have a banged up I say hopefully you're not going to have a banged up Caden Durham this year, but the offensive line, hopefully, I think last year they were very good pass blockers, but a lot of them were one-dimensional linemen just based on what the results you saw. So hopefully there's a little more nastiness and grittiness, but I don't think systematically they're going to be changing I don't think we're going to see a bunch of stuff under center where they're lining up with a fullback ready to ground and pound. I think it's going to be a similar approach to the running game, just very different personnel and hopefully healthy personnel.
I mean, we did see a little bit under center in the first practice that we saw, and then we have seen them running a lot of 12 personnel with Bauer Sharp and Tradez Green on the field at the same time. Do you expect to see some two tight end sets?
Well, we saw a lot of that last fall camp, didn't we, Down? I mean, that's nothing new in practice that we see. In fact, I remember goal line formations. We saw a whole unit, and it's like, well, they didn't really pan out. Now, I do think the 12 personnel they're rolling with I think they're going to be using that a lot. I think they really like what they've got in Trey-Dez and Bauer Sharp, both as threats. But, I mean, make no mistake, they're going to mix in some four-wide sets. I mean, they have a deep, talented receiver room and a quarterback ready to use these guys. So I wouldn't say that 12 is all they're going to run, but there's going to be a good bit of that. I just hope that they can use that formation to, give you some more physicality in the run game, because that's really what they lacked a year ago.
Well, let's play hypotheticals. It's spring. So last year LSU was the best third down offense in the conference. They were like 4th or 5th in total offense. They were 1st in completions and right up there in passing. They were just missing the running game and the red zone component from being a really complete offense, but they've still got a lot of the pieces from that offense. Can they be? They're going to be? Can you win significantly with a pass first offense? And then if not, like what they were last in the conference in rushing. What do they need to be a complete enough team? 6th, 8th, 10th?
I don't know about 6, 8. I don't know where they need to rank, but I do know this. Okay. That offense was just so close to being great at times last year. I think inconsistencies at the receiver spot held you back. I think turnovers from Nussmeier, particularly, the multi-turnover games like against Texas A&M, that held you back, right? But you hit for most of the year, you hit the nail on the head. They got tons of yardage, and then they would get in the red zone and just start shooting themselves in the foot, And I think that goes hand in hand with having a consistent running game. I can't tell you how much being able to rely on getting 3 yards consistently, that just helps your team so much. And last year you really couldn't rely on that. I would, if I had to guess, I would probably say 1 out of 3 runs got you less than 3 yards last year, which is just not ideal. You really need to be converting that 3 yards at a high level. And that makes your offense move with more consistency, because it's just that's all it was last year. It's just lack of consistency in that running game. And if you can fix that, look, I think the rest of it will work itself out if you can have a balanced and effective approach in your offense. But that being said, yes, you can be pass first. I mean, 2019, that was a pass first offense, but when Clyde got the ball, you know what? Clyde did big things in the running game. He ran for 1,400 yards that year. So absolutely, yes.
What do you think Harlem Berry's role? Actually, let me ask it a different way. If you were in charge, what would you like to see Harlem Berry's role in the offense coming up?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of good backs that, you got to consider with him here. You got to think about, how does Caden Durham play into to the role? Is Caleb Jackson going to be physically back up? His acceleration last year just really held him back. And of course, we all thought he was due for a breakout season, and the opposite happened. He got relegated to, a role player last year, if even that. But I think Caden Durham will be your number one. I think he's more ready for inside the tackles. But in terms of Harlem Berry, I would use him in third down situations. I would use him as a change of pace guy. He is nimble and light on his feet, although he probably doesn't have the top end speed that Caden Durham has. He's a longer strider, and particularly he's really good receiving out of the backfield too as well. So I would use him more of a third down back, and I would use Caden Durham as your primary back, and frankly, I'd use Caden Durham as your physical back. When you need to, get short yardage, go Caden Durham, because he's small, but he's built muscly. He's got that Maurice Jones-Drew energy to him where he'll lower a shoulder and go into a guy. Whereas I think Harlem Berry probably physically isn't there yet where he's lowering a shoulder and running guys over yet.
Yeah, Caden Durham, I don't think if you looked at him on the roster, you would think a guy that can run between the tackles. But he's a strong dude when he gets in there, and he showed that. I think especially against South Carolina last year when he kind of broke out, and they had a heck of a time trying to tackle him. Last part on the offense here, and we'll let you go. We appreciate a little bit of time. Garrett Nussmeier talking about winning national championships earlier this week. How do you feel about his mental state here and kind of what you expect from him in his last year?
I mean, look, man, interviews and what to say and mindset and work ethic. Nussmeier has always checked off those boxes, man. I mean, he's a coach's son. He's going to have a good leadership mentality. I mean, look, that's never been the concern for me. It wasn't a concern last year. No, I mean, when was the last time someone came to you and was like, man, Nussmeier, I just don't know if he's ready to lead this team yet. Nussmeier, man, I just don't know if he's, really checked in and dialed in. No, I mean, he's a coach's son, and he's going to have that mindset, and that's going to be a big advantage for your football team. So, look, I think he's got the right. And, look, sometimes it's good to say some confident things like that. A lot of people gave Joe Burrow some smack when, at media days, he's out there saying, don't be surprised when we hang 40, 50, and 60 points in games. And guess what he did in his first 3 games? He scored 45, 55, and 65 points. So, I love that little air of confidence, not what's the word
Cockiness.
for it? Not being cocky and arrogant, I guess is what I'm going for, which you do see some guys around the country who go straight into that arrogance where they're, disrespecting other people, and I like what I'm seeing out of Nuss. How
do you feel about the comparison to Joe Burrow's 5th year and to Jaden Daniels' 5th year when people look at Garrett Nussmeier's 5th year?
I don't know that it's a fair comparison.
Yeah.
I think that we've seen 2 of the best 5th-year breakouts that we've ever seen from players in any, situation. It's just wild, and to expect that out of Nussmeier is probably not fair. But how about this one? Zach Mettenberger in 2013, he went from 12 touchdowns, 7 interceptions with 2,600 yards, and he threw for 22 and 8 the next year. Had a really good year. That offense was really sharp for him. So a jump like that, let's aim for that. Let's aim. And he was probably better than Mettenberger even was in 2013 last year, probably.
Oh, he definitely was.
4,000 yards. So, but that jump is what I'm getting at. Like, let's see. Okay, you threw 26 touchdowns and you threw 4,000 yards. Let's see if we can go for 4,500 and work those touchdowns up to maybe 35, 40, and at the same time cut those interceptions back. Let's cut those interceptions in half. That's the kind of jump I think is realistic or reasonable to look for Nussmeier. I don't think if you're looking for him to have 65 touchdowns and 6,000 yards like Joe did, we're probably all going to be disappointed because there's one person in college in Power 5 history to ever do that.
Is that number right for Mettenberger? He threw 22 touchdowns his last year. Are you confident in that?
22 and 8, and I think he had 2,950 something yards.
Just think about what we went through there from a span of 6 years, where we went from thinking Mettenberger was slinging it all over the yard for 22 touchdowns, and 6 years later, Burrow threw 60. That's hard for me to even grasp mentally. That's where we went in 6 years.
Yeah, well, you think about this. In 2010, Jordan Jefferson threw for 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions.
Oh, God.
You know what I mean? So when you go from that to 22 and 8, you feel like you're in a Lamborghini all of a sudden. And
that was a rocket ship of some sort. That was beyond Earth.
It felt like SpaceX out there. It really did.
Have a good weekend, Preston. We appreciate it.
All right, see you soon, Hunt.
All right, Preston Guy, TigerBait.com. All your spring football covers, they got you covered over there at TigerBait.com. Taylor, open your mic here. That mental gymnastics I just did was a lot to deal with because I remember vividly watching Mettenberger throw the ball in 2013 and be like, this is the greatest passing offense I've ever seen in my life. And he threw 22 touchdowns, which is a third of what Burrow did in 19. And that's how quickly that perspective changed.
Do you remember how excited fans were when Danny Etling hit Deshaun Smith against Jackson State? Little fun fact for you. Danny Etling went 6 of 16 in that game, had 1 touchdown and a rushing touchdown, and everyone, myself included, was like, this is where LSU turns their season around. Even the next year, Etling went 18 touchdowns, 3 picks, and everybody's like, this guy's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in school history.
It's all about perspective.
It is a different game nowadays.
I thought Mettenberger was the greatest quarterback of all time. He threw 22 touchdowns. Burrow did 22 touchdowns in 2 weeks. That's crazy to think about. All right, take a time out. We'll talk LSU, Texas with the beat writer from over there in Austin when we come back.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, hosted by the Goo Goo Dolls' #1 fan, Hunt Palmer.
conference weekend in the books. LSU 3-0 weekend against Missouri. Texas 3-0 weekend at Duty Noble over in Starkville. Should be an incredible atmosphere in Austin for the next 3 days. I know I've got the right guy on the line here because his Twitter handle is Zach at the Dish. Of course, LSU will be at Dish Falk Field starting tonight for a 3-game set. Zachary Sim covers the Texas Longhorns for Orange Blood. Good enough to give us a few minutes here on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Zachary, how are you?
Doing great. How's everything going today?
Everything is good. We're excited about a little baseball this weekend. I got to imagine Texas fans are as well. Unfortunately, basketball eliminated back earlier this week, but baseball is playing very well under Jim Schlossnagle. What are the vibes in Austin like as far as baseball goes?
Yeah, the vibes are high. Everything's gone really well so far this season. There's a lot of excitement around the program and getting back to what Texas should be, right? So. It's a top 10 matchup between two of the most storied programs in the nation, and I think Texas fans are just excited to get that first SEC series at home.
For sure, and I want to talk about what the environment should be like over the next 3 days, but I'm curious what the expectation level was back in early February for this team. Obviously, it's the first year of a new head coach. Were there high expectations? Was it just excitement? Have they exceeded expectations thus far? What's been the case over the last 6 weeks?
Yeah, I think they've probably exceeded expectations to some degree. They had a really strong core nucleus returning, but a lot of them were hitters. And so the big question mark was, well, who's going to pitch for the team? Who's going to start? And so it's, those kind of big questions going into SEC where pitching is paramount. It was a little trepidation by some, but, quietly, I think the Texas coaches said, look, we think we have a team that can compete, but we can't just sleepwalk. We're going to have to be at our very best. We have to avoid injuries, and that's what they've done so far. So it's been really good. Obviously Jim Schlossnagle and his pedigree has brought a lot of attention and excitement to the program just for what he's done over the years at TCU and then again at A&M. So yeah, everyone's ramped up and ready to go.
Would you anticipate a full house for all 3 games this weekend?
Oh yeah, I think we'll probably be pushing some regular series season records this weekend because weather's supposed to be beautiful, low 80s, sunny. So, I think there's going to be plenty of people on hand.
I'm curious to see how LSU handles that. They have not faced a hostile road environment yet. They went over to Dallas and Frisco, but played in front of a lot of purple and gold those weekends. That will not be the case in Austin this weekend. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. Let's talk about this Texas team. I want to start on the mound because from afar it appears that there was potentially an injury in the midweek, and then there was a closer that is extended in an extra inning game. So what can you tell us about the availability of those two relievers and what Texas's bullpen maybe look like this weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. So Andre Duplantier was the reliever that, he came up from warm-ups, and the coaches just said, it doesn't look perfect. So we're going to give him a rest. We're not going to use him tonight, especially with LSU coming to town. So he's ready to go.
Okay.
They tested him out, no issues structurally or otherwise. He's feeling good. And then with the reliever that got used significantly was Ruger Riojas. That was the guy that transferred from UTSA who Texas played on Tuesday. And, he's going to be ready to go. He probably will not pitch tonight, but he will be ready to go for Saturday or, if worst case, Sunday. So.
All right, let's talk about the Texas rotation. I think the two names that come to the forefront are Jared Spencer and Luke Harrison, who I think LSU will see tonight and tomorrow. Let's start with Spencer. What can you tell us about the left-hander?
Yeah, he's got an electric fastball. It's 95 to 98. He's really grown into that role as a starter. There were some questions around, well, what does that look like? Because he'd mostly played pitched as a reliever when he was at Indiana State, but he's done really well. He commands the zone. He likes to attack, which is, of course, Max Wiener's, MO, if you will. And so far, everything's been really good. And, he likes to go use that slider, which is his out pitch. And then he's been mixing in a changeup. So he's really kind of developed that third pitch, which has helped him a lot to be able to get through the SEC lineup type folks.
Luke Harrison, another left-hander who I don't believe lights up the radar gun quite to that extent, but his numbers are very good early in the season. What can you tell us about Harrison?
Yeah, Harrison's definitely not going to be a guy that's going to, just wow you with stuff. But he's a guy that has a really good mentality on the mound. And sometimes mound presence is one of the most important things you can have. And so come out with a 91 to 89 fastball, but he commands it really well. And so, he'll mix it up. He'll throw it in the zone. He's got a breaking ball that's really good, has really great shape on it. It's hard to see come out of his hand. So, the big deal for Harrison has been he's got to get a little bit deeper in the games, and that means limiting the free passes. So sometimes he'll have a tendency to go deep into counts, which can result in a walk or so.
Let's talk about the Texas offense. Statistically, when you rank them with the other SEC teams, not a lot of eye-popping numbers, but they're certainly doing enough to win. What can you tell us about the Horns' overall identity on the offensive side?
Yeah, I think the identity of the Horns offense has been, kind of a bit of a work in progress to some degree. They had just some really powerful teams the last couple of years in terms of offense, and that was expected to be the main driver this year, but they kind of got to a slow start. Some of that was just adjusting to the philosophy. Coach Sloss wants them to get really deep in counts. He wants them to go and take first pitch strikes. He wants them to see a lot of pitches to get the pitch counts up. And so, it's maybe not hitting for the same power numbers that we've seen from them in the last couple of years, but they're a team that's been really good at timely hitting. And so they come through and, they have a bunch of big inning games as well. I think they have 6 games right now where they've scored 7 runs in a single inning. And so that continues to kind of be their MO.
Interesting. What's a potential concern for this Texas roster as you move through the next 27 SEC games?
I think, having that offense continue to gel is going to be really key because, it's still very early on in that philosophy. And so there are times where they can be a little too passive. There's times where you just need to go out and, put the ball in play. And coaches talk to them about that. And then the other thing I think you need to see from the Texas offense or the Texas team is their pitching staff. Like, they've got guys that they trust really well. So Max Grubbs, which y'all will see tonight, Ruger Riojas, he'll see this weekend, certainly on either Saturday or Sunday, Andre Duplantier. But it's getting that 5th and 6th guy out of the bullpen because the SEC lineups are so deep. And so being able to consistently go 3 or 2 innings, because their starters are not guys that are going to, go super deep in the games anyways. So.
Yeah, I think the bullpen is something that I was really curious about, and I'm glad you cleared a bunch of that up. We appreciate a little bit of time. Enjoy the great weather this weekend and some awesome baseball. We appreciate the time, Zachary.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
He's Zachary Sim, Orange Bloods, covers Texas baseball over there. It's going to be a great weekend in Austin, Texas, and we'll see if LSU is up to the challenge. It's interesting because if you were listening at the top of the show, I told you, this is the thing that you have to watch for with this Texas team is how patient they are early in counts. And unsolicited, really, I just kind of talked about the offense, and Zachary comes up and says, that Sloss wants them to take pitches. He wants them to work counts. That's Texas' offensive MO. And if you go out there and you're always in 1-0 counts and 2-0 counts, you're going to be in big trouble. And LSU did that a lot last week against Missouri. So that cannot continue. You've got to throw it over the plate and make Texas try to beat you swinging the bat instead of watching. And the other piece of that is getting into a bullpen, and you don't want them to do that too often as well. LSU's got bullpen arms they trust. They've got guys they can go to, but you don't want to overtax those guys. You don't want DJ Primo always throwing 3 games in a weekend. You don't need to have guys going 50, 60, 80 pitches out of the bullpen like you potentially had last weekend where you had to go to 44 pitches out of Case and Evans because your starter went 3 2/3 in that game. That's not something you can sustain all that often. You'd really like to have Case and Evans for 2 different games on the weekend. Well, you can't do that if he's got to come in the 7th. So it's a big key in this game to notice how Texas takes a lot of pitches, and LSU's going to have to pump strikes, and we'll see. They can do it starting tonight at 7 o'clock. If you're looking for a big breakdown of the series via print, you can find that over at LouisianaSports.net every single Friday. Or if they start on Thursday, the series snapshot is up there. It's on the front page of the website right now, and it's got a lot of numbers, a lot of breakdown. And for the first 5 weeks, I focused a lot on LSU in the series snapshot because I don't really care to break down Omaha's baseball team. I don't care that much to check out Purdue, Fort Wayne. But in this instance, I thought it was relevant to really dive into Texas team because you kind of have a good feeling about LSU at this point. So I got a lot of Texas information there on LouisianaSports.net. You can check that out for free over on the website. We'll come back. Saints just made a free agent signing. We'll talk about it coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. This is the Hunt Palmer Show. Hopefully Hunt remembered to bring his laptop charger. Nah, there's no chance.
It was a pretty good run by Robert Morris at Alabama, but not going to be enough for the 15 seed. They're down 12 with 1:46 to go, so Alabama's going to be moving on. Mississippi State is done. They lose to Baylor by 3 points. Baylor did not foul up 3 points, let Mississippi State get a shot off at the buzzer, but it did not go down. So Chris Jans, for the third year in a row, eliminated in the first round of the NCAA tournament after winning 21 games. So Mississippi State out of the tournament. All right, let's break down a new signing for the New Orleans Saints. It happened while we were on the air here in this first hour. The New Orleans Saints have signed an old face back to the same place. It is Brandin Cooks, veteran wide receiver who was drafted by New Orleans in the first round back in 2014. He spent 3 seasons in New Orleans and was moved to New England via trade. He spent a couple of years with the Rams, spent some time in Houston, and has recently been with the Dallas Cowboys for a couple of seasons. Cooks will play this year his age 32 season. I'll be honest here, I don't like this signing a lot at all. You're talking about a 32-year-old receiver who has declined in production each of the last 5 seasons. He had 1,100 yards as in 2020, then went down to 1,037, down to 699, 657, and last year in only 10 games had 259 yards and 3 touchdowns. I understand the thought. Okay, you bring him in. He's an experienced vet. He's a third option behind Olave and Shaheed. But to me, this is a guy who he's not that expensive. You're talking about $8 million a year for 2 years. But I just don't have any interest in spending any money on Brandin Cooks because he's declining in production. He's getting up in age. The Saints are not in a position to win right now. Like, we talked to Luke Johnson about this a little bit earlier this week, and he was like, I think they should sign one of these veteran receivers, whether it's Brandin Cooks, whether it's Amari Cooper. Some of these guys, they flirted with Cooper Kupp for a little bit. And I understand the thought, but I'm not generally in spend mode with the Saints, and it's going to have to really have some upside to it for me to agree to it. Like, the Chase Young signing is not roundly agreed with. There are some that don't, certainly in this building at this station. There are some that don't agree with the Saints, but I can see it. Like, that's a guy who had some production this year. His numbers, his advanced metrics are actually better than the production on the stat sheet, and he's 25 years old. Like, there's a lot in the tank for Chase Young at a vital position, and he's not expensive relative to the elite players that expensive at that position. Cooks is not breaking the bank here, but I just don't care about adding a receiver to this team. I'd rather just save money. Like, that's kind of where I am with the Saints. So, yeah, they had a bad receiving core last year. Yeah, injuries riddled it, and they ended up going to sign guys off the street, and MVS was doing everything. Like, I understand the situation, but I just don't think there's a ton of gas left in Brandin Cooks' tank. I don't think he gives the Saints something they don't already have. He doesn't bring elite size and physicality. If you're talking about 5'10", 6'1" receivers, you've got Olave and you've got a speed burner in Shaheed. Like, Cooks is just kind of another guy, and he didn't do very much in Dallas the last 2 years. So I'm not wild about this signing. I'd rather take a flyer on an undrafted guy or a late-round draft choice to try to make the team for no money that could potentially stick around for a little bit longer. Like, it's certainly not going to cripple the New Orleans Saints to go out and find Brandin Cooks, but I don't see a lot of value in bringing him in. If you think, well, he's a pro, he can teach the young receivers the ropes. Like, how young are Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed? Like, those guys are not exactly rookies anymore. So this is not one that excites me a ton. And the Saints continue to kind of go out and spend money on guys in their 30s. And I just don't love the idea. I like young. I like cheap. Brandin Cooks is not young. And so I'm kind of anti this deal. Taylor, you've watched this guy play for 2 years in Dallas. I saw you nodding your head along as I kind of said I don't really love the signing. It appears that you don't think it's a great move by the New Orleans Saints either.
You signed older, slower Rashid Shaheed is what you did.
Yeah.
That's what you brought him in for 2 years ago to do. Dallas brought him in, and they said, hey, we want a guy that can take a little bit of the pressure off of CeeDee Lamb. First year, 600 yards, 6 touchdowns. Like, he was fine last year in and out of the lineup because of injury, but even when he was on the field, he kind of got passed up by Jalen Tolbert if you're asking yourself who's Jalen Tolbert, that's kind of my point here. He just got passed up. He's a lot slower. He's undersized. I mean, if you were going to do this, I probably would have just brought back Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Saints in the next hour about kind of where they are in terms of their perception of where they are and where everyone else's perception is. But this feels like a move for a contending team, not a team that is where the Saints are. And I don't love the deal. So we'll see what he's able to do. He's an 11-year veteran in the league, and it's been 11 years since the Saints drafted him in the first round, and he had a string of 1,000-yard seasons in his second, third, fourth, fifth years. He went over 1,000 yards and then did it 2 more times after a season where he was hurt in Los Angeles. But this guy, his production's declined 5 years in a row. I'm not over the moon about this signing here, but it's not unexpected. We figured the Saints would dip into the veteran market here in free agency for a wide receiver, and they have with Brandin Cooks on a 2-year deal. It's going to be 33 when this thing ends. I don't love it. All right, let's close out. We are closing out hour number 1 here, and we'll crank it back up here for hour number 2. We got a lot to get to in the second hour. I want to talk about LSU and their offense this week against the Texas Arms. I want to talk about the odds for the Saints to win the NFC South. There's some SEC baseball we want to get to, and of course March Madness continues to roll on, and we'll get you scores from around the NCAA tournament as they become available. Iowa State rolling Lipscomb right now, 56-32 at halftime. That's the one that was on the screen as we're going to break here. So we'll step aside for SportsCenter, and we'll come back for what should be a very good last hour of the show this week. Our Friday shows are brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Go check them out online at corksfishandshrimp.com. It's a Lenten Friday. Stop on by Corks. We'll pause for SportsCenter. Come back with hour 2 coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is that website. Every car that is on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. I tell you every single day about the incredible perks that come with being a Genesis of Baton Rouge driver. How about 3 years of complimentary maintenance? Even better, 3 years of valet complimentary maintenance. Nobody loves sitting around the dealership waiting for your car to be serviced. Got to wait for them to get to the car, and got to wait for the service to happen. You're sitting there watching Price is Right. That's not great. How about they come get your car, leave you a car so you can get on about your day. They'll handle your service, whether that's oil change, air filter, wiper fluids, blades, whatever the case may be. They'll handle that. They'll bring it right back to you. It's a great perk. And a 10-year, 100,000-mile one. 10 years, 100,000 miles. Check them out online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. Genesis of Baton Rouge, online at genesisofbatonrouge.com.